Here's a letter I received from Blake in Kentucky. Blake wrote, I binge watched most of your videos over the weekend while I was sick. I find it amazing that your wife hunts with you. My wife likes the outdoors, but doesn't seem to want to hunt with me. How do I get her interested in hunting?
Okay, so I originally tried to film this video in a really beautiful remote location in Alaska, but unfortunately, when I went over that footage, the audio on it was really bad. There was a lot of technical difficulties with the audio, mainly because of the wind and other factors. So I'm back in the studio doing it here. So basically, this video is about getting your wife into hunting. Here's a letter I got a few weeks ago from Blake in Kentucky. Blake wrote, I binge watched most of your videos over the weekend while I was sick. I find it amazing that your wife hunts with you. My wife likes the outdoors, but doesn't seem to want to hunt with me. How do I get her interested in hunting? Well, Blake, I answered this question in the August 2020 edition of Hunt Camp Mail, but after almost 2 years, I still get flooded with this same question just about every month. And rather than directing people to that August 2020 edition of Hunt Camp Mail, I just decided to make a separate video on the subject. So you already know that you can't make a spouse that doesn't like the outdoors outdoorsy. That's a recipe for disaster. You can't force somebody to enjoy your hobby, but what you can do is you can attempt to introduce them to it. And when you state that your wife likes the outdoors, you need to understand that there's different levels of liking the outdoors. Is she fine with living in a tent for 5 days with hordes of mosquitoes, no cell phone reception, without bathing, while eating dehydrated meals? Is she patient enough to sit motionless on a hill and glass for 4 hours straight, even in the rain? Can she sit in a wet, freezing duck blind all day with you? Or is her idea of liking the outdoors doing touristy things in national parks? You see, there's many different levels to being outdoorsy, and you have to tailor her experience to her tolerance level. You also have to entertain the notion that she might not like hunting no matter what you do. And we all know how people react when you force them to do something that they don't want to do. It always ends or leads to conflict. I hear guys complain all the time that they can't take their wife hunting with them because she'll nag me to death, and just complain the whole time. While it is true that some people are like that all the time and are horrible to be around, I find that most people actually act that way as a coping mechanism when they're unhappy or in an uncomfortable position. Have you ever taken a redneck or ghetto family member out to a really nice restaurant before? What always happens? Well, they usually end up griping and complaining about everything and generally making asses of themselves. Do you know why they do this? They do that in response to being put in an uncomfortable position or a position of disadvantage. That's just human behavior. And putting your wife in a hunting situation where she isn't comfortable and confident can trigger that same response. I mean, guys, let's be real here. We act the same damn way when the wife drags us out to the mall or makes us have dinner with one of the in-laws we don't like. I mean, it's the same damn thing. So you have to provide a hunting experience for your wife where she's comfortable and confident before the hunt even starts. In addition to that, you also have to ensure that the hunt makes her feel positive about the act of hunting itself. You have to have that circle of life talk with her. With us men, the act of preparing for the hunt itself, and the results of the hunt are how we tend to judge our experience while hunting. When someone asks us about our hunt, we always say, hey, I got a nice buck, or I hunted my ass off, but I just didn't score anything this year," which usually ends in congratulations from other men or the customary, "An unsuccessful day hunting is still better than a day at work." And, that's how men judge the hunting experience. We're simple creatures. With women, the hunt is judged by how it made them feel. If the hunt makes them feel intimidated, ashamed, angry, or overwhelmed, that's how they're going to frame the overall hunting experience going into the future. And you don't want that. If hunting makes them have negative feelings, they're just not going to want to do it. So your number one goal is to make your wife's first hunt a positive experience that makes her feel good about doing it. You have to introduce her to hunting in baby steps and build her confidence slowly over time. Save the really demanding hunts for later if she decides to do them at all. Also, don't dive right into killing Bambi when you take her hunting and, having her core out Bambi's butthole and pull it out the gut pile onto the ground. Start small and gauge your interest in steps. And another thing I want to bring up is don't let your pride and ego get in the way of preventing you from hiring a guide for your wife's first hunt. I mean, generally, that's the best direction to go. I had a golf instructor years ago when I was trying to get good at golf. And he pointed out across the green and he's like, "Oh, that's my wife over there taking a lesson." And I said, "Well, you're a professional golfer at a golf instruction. How come your wife's not taking a lesson from you?" And he says, "Oh, she won't listen to a word I say." When I try to explain to her, give her pointers and try to teach her how to golf, it ends up in an argument every time. But if a perfect stranger tells her the same thing, she's more receptive to listening to him. So, that may be the case with hiring a guide. So this is how I would get her started in hunting. I would start by buying her a soft shooting 20 gauge shotgun, preferably an auto because there's even less recoil, and take her out to shoot clays so she can gain the confidence to safely handle a gun and learn the fundamentals of properly loading and unloading, getting cheek weld, and properly leading a target that's moving. Make this experience fun. And whatever you do, don't be an asshole and cause her to give up. I know that's harder than it seems, but at the first sign of that you're getting frustrated or aggressive or annoyed by teaching her, it's all over. So be very patient. Then after you do that, take a hunter's education course with her. Even if you don't need to take a hunter's education course, take it with her anyways. So it's a shared journey that you're experiencing together. When your wife feels that an experience brings you closer together, she might embrace it a lot more. Then after that, take your wife on a bird hunt. Even if you have to pay to hunt on a preserve or a piece of private property, killing birds tends to elicit less feelings of remorse than killing Bambi. So also birds like pheasant, chukar, and quail are more delicious than chicken. So she's likely to enjoy the culinary spoils of the hunt more than she would with venison. So, my wife is extremely proud of her wild game dishes, which further enhances her hunting experience. So, that might be the same way with your wife. And once you get her to that point, it's a good time to show her how to shoot a rifle. First at targets, then ease her into an easy hunt. Even if you have to pay to hunt on private land for her first big game hunt, make the experience as easy and stress-free as you can for her. Don't put her in an uneasy situation. The important part of this journey is that you practice together at the range, you sat together for hunters' safety education courses, you hunted together, you took photos together, you cooked and ate meals together, and you planned the next hunting trip together. The bonding is what is important to her. When you say, "I want my wife to hunt," you have to mean it. This means that you and your wife are a team. This means that if you hit the duck blind with your buddies, your wife goes too. This means that if you want to fly to Africa for a safari, your wife goes too. This means that your wife is now your hunting partner and best friend. This means that from now on, you're going hunting to be with your wife, not to get away from your wife. Let that sink in. It'll either excite you or horrify you, but now you know how it's done.